We are the Xavier group, the Save St. Francis Xavier School group, Xavier Foundation, and we're very interested in some buildings. In fact, since we last talked to you, the buildings have been entered into the National Register in Washington, D.C. by the Keeper of the Register Deeds. So what we have received back is a notification of eligibility, and so we are, on the cusp of being entered into the register as soon as the owners go ahead and write a letter to Washington accepting the honor. Of course, we are here with a distinguished panel, and I'm just going to ask for some introductions as we go around the table. We have Tim Bernard. Tim, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name's Tim Bernard. I've lived in town for about 20 years, been a member of the parish for 9 years. I've done a lot of building and some writing, and just trying to get this project going to try to help the kids in town and to give an outlet for the people in church to practice their faith.
Thank you, Tim. Gloria, our next person is Gloria Bernardini, second person from the right.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Bernardini Rourke, and I'm a retired businesswoman, and I have 2 children and 5 grandchildren, and I've belonged to St. Francis almost the entire length of time I've lived here, which is 20 years.
Thank you very much, Gloria. The next is Mary Fran Moylan. Mary Fran?
I'm Mary Fran Moylan. I've been in the parish close to 28 years. In my former life, I ran a neighborhood house back in the Midwest, and the community center is a very exciting tool for me, and I would like to see that happen on the north side here.
Next, and to my immediate right, is Tate Jones, and Tate is the curator, and basically starting from, I'd say, less than scratch, started from virtually zero, has a wonderful military museum that he has created for Missoula. I understand one of our 8 museums, if I understand correctly. So we're getting to be quite a hub. And Tate, can you tell us about yourself, please?
Excuse me, if I can break in first, can you point to me where the camera is?
Yes, and the cameras are here. The cameras are here and here.
All right.
And so as a result,
thank you very much. I'm Tate Jones. I'm director of the Rocky Mountain Museum of Military History at Fort Missoula. And the personal connection I bring here tonight is when I was at Loyola Sacred Heart High School, I was one of probably the last 2 classes to use the St. Francis complex when it was serving Loyola Sacred Heart before it moved over to the present St. Anthony's location. So I enjoyed my time in the building there, and hopefully it'll be used again for a very worthy purpose.
thank you, Tate, and thank you for that personal insight, why these buildings are important to people. I'm Tom Moylan. I'm a retired physician, and our children, Mary Frances is to the right of Tate, is my wife, and our children went to those schools. And as Tate said, the final days of Sacred Heart, attended Sacred Heart High School there. It was Loyola Sacred Heart, and so the Loyola building and the Sacred Heart building we no longer have, but our children attended those buildings, and so yeah, we've been involved for a long time in all this. I hate to say it, but I guess in a way, at least myself, we're sort of becoming part of history ourselves. I'm going to pass it on to James James Weir, and James is with the AFL-CIO here. James, especially involved in worker retraining. James?
Yeah, I work with the dislocated worker program, and my interest in the Xavier building and the complex is I'm an outsider. I'm a member of the board of the Xavier Foundation, but I don't have a church affiliation. What I'm interested in is preserving cultural heritage. I think it's an extremely important part of the community, every community right across America and the world at this time, because the pace of change is so great. And what I'd like to see is the buildings preserved, but not just preserved as a ghost, but a living entity where it's reused for public purposes.
Well, thank you very much, James. And now I'd like to share with the viewers, and this program will be shown twice, so it may be that there's another chance to catch it whenever you see it, to tell your friends. It's shown on December 1st and again on December 3rd, and I believe the times are, we got a phone call, was it 7?
7 p.m. on the 1st.
Okay.
And I think it's 4 or something on the 3rd.
Yeah.
And that's MCAT, Channel 7 or 13.
Yeah, on MCAT Channel 7 and 13, or 7 or 13. The December 3rd, I think, continues to be at 4 p.m. For that. And then the first History Speak will show again, too, on those days. And those are available by calling the station those times. So here we have a complex of buildings, and the question before us tonight, we're conducting a program entitled History Speak 2. And the program's about a gentleman, this is the book about his life. It's titled Good Samaritan of the Northwest, Anthony Ravalli, S.J. So the questions we're asking tonight is, who was Anthony Ravalli, S.J.? Why did he come to Montana? How can we share in his legacy? And we have some interesting footage to share with you. It's about, and it's about an experience some of us have had in dealing with or learning about something somewhat, I guess, new to myself at least, the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. And so we have some video footage that we will, share with you later on. But Mary Frances, you were over there to Helena, and did you have some insights or some things you learned over there?
Right. Well, first to connect it with Father Ravalli, just to, a lot of people know about him, but he is responsible for the establishment of the St. Mary Mission and that down in Stephenville. And one of the things he said when he was down there, they asked him, what was he doing there, what was he doing? He said he just did whatever needed to be done, and so he treated, there wasn't obviously a Catholic community there or anything, so he dealt mainly with the Indians, but he wore so many hats. He was a pharmacist, he was a builder, he was an artist. I was privileged to get in on some of that when we were doing the restoration work at the church. We looked at some of his work as well. But it seems like a lot of people say, well, those were so immediate, the needs were right there, it was so immediate. And now it's so complex, our society, and that is so different. In fact, when we were up at Helena, one of the definitions of poverty, the reason we use that term is the bishops have taken that slogan, break the cycle of poverty. And they said, well, what is poverty? And the definition that they gave up there that was so good, I thought it was a collection of sorrows that overwhelms the ability of individuals and communities to help themselves and each other and erodes the well-being of the region. So if you have any element of poverty, it affects everybody. And so I think this is one of the challenges that this group put out to us in Helena was find out where it is, and then you find out what you can do about it with the people that are affected. So that was the general, and I'll enlarge on that later too.
Well, thank you, Mary. And I'll watch for signals from the panel members as any of these ideas, as you want to break in. Of course, we're open. We've got our radio waves tuned for you. So the buildings are, we've got them up in front of us here presently, but on my right is the St. Francis Xavier School. It's an empty school building. Tim, could you tell us a little bit about it and its, what it could mean?
Well, yeah, what I'd like to say, one thing that should be known is that the buildings are basically paid for, except for a note that we need to address to the Catholic schools to help keep that going. So that they're still actually supporting schools right now. They're in excellent shape. Right after the schools moved out, St. Patrick's Hospital moved in, and they're no second-rate operation, and stayed there for about 3 years. It just needs some minor repairs to get back into action. We've come up with a plan where we could have a positive cash flow and use part of the building on the right there where the large auditorium is to do a teen center for stuff for kids to do at night, because anyone who knows kids, especially as they get later, both at the end of their high school career and early in college, they're going to do something. So why not give them a good place to go where they're in an organized, controlled environment, having some Christian music maybe playing instead of some of the other music that's out there. There's plenty of good rock bands that have a Christian theme, so you don't have to worry about the words that are being said. We've also, in there, we look at after-school programs. That's one of the biggest things going in Missoula here with the low wages. A lot of people are working 2 jobs, and people need a good place for their kids to go. And so this has an excellent opportunity with a gym on one end, the auditorium on the other. And if we just rented out the second-story classrooms, that would give us our positive cash flow. And then we have a full commercial kitchen in the downstairs that we could utilize, team up with people on the north side and other things that have some projects for that. And one of the things we'd like to maybe do is put in a free to a subsidized daycare. To begin to educate people, because it's all about education. There's a lot of false education out there in the world today, and people don't understand what's going on, and so we need to step up to the plate as Christians and provide this. And here we have an excellent opportunity. One of the biggest overheads in anything you do is your space. I mean, to go out and build these places, to go out and just build the school, the one school that we're talking about, there's actually 2 empty schools there, but this school's just about 30,000 square feet. You're looking at a minimum of $3 million to rebuild it, and that's a minimum, and it can go up from there. And like I said, we can go in there and utilize it right now as is, and it provides a perfect opportunity for civic groups, both within the church, other churches, and within the community, because we've had a lot of response, as everyone here knows, from a wide range of people who would like to come in, and people want to do something for their community to make it better. It's something that everyone can feel good about. And it's not like we haven't done big projects before. I was a ramrod when we started the skating rink out there, and we built that on a shoestring budget. Missoula Youth Homes, they do lots of projects where they are getting a project done for 1/3 to 1/4 of its retail value. If you were just going out there, because a lot of people want to get involved and do things because it makes everyone feel good.
Yeah, and those are such cogent and direct comments to what is here on the table before us. And we do have a video. And James,
Tom,
you've seen. I was going to say, James, you've seen some of the video.
Could I just say one thing?
Yeah. Would you?
I'd like
Please?
to amplify what Tim was saying. And the thing about it is, there's no waiting. You don't have to wait 18 months, 2 years to get the complex built. It's ready to go. Minimal waiting. It's ready to be occupied. It's instantaneous. So there's no waiting.
That is such a good point. I was just talking to you might say the powers that be today, the people that control buildings in Missoula, and I'm talking to him, and I said, I just, excuse me for double checking this the 4th time with you, but it's true, we can move in there tomorrow. And he says, yeah, you can move in there tomorrow. There's nothing wrong with the buildings. You might want a heating plant. It's a little cool to just be hanging around a building. He said, the roof, sure, it's leaking, but you can be in a building with a leaky roof. You're going to want to fix it to take care of the structural.
It's just a superficial leak. I mean, let's be true about this. It's a very superficial leak that some of the building owners are currently trying to use as an excuse to say, oh, there's all this damage. And there has been damage because of their neglect, but it'll only amount to a few $1,000s, which is nothing compared to the millions of dollars it would take to replace that building. So there's a lot of opportunity here to bring our community together and to do something good for the children and the community where we all benefit. We can all feel good about this project.
Thank you, Tim. I see Mary Fran, you're...
I think one of the things that when you start, doing the shotgun look and seeing all the things that could be done, sometimes that can be very daunting, But what I found out up in Helena was that this Catholic Campaign for Human Development, they've got a great track record, and you'll see some examples of it on the video. But mainly what they do is they give you some hope. The people that are suffering from this disengagement, or they don't know where to go for the help, and these are experts. They'll say, look, if you donate in your community, 25% of what you donate stays in Helena right away to fund these quickie studies. And then the other 75% can come back once you get your act together and you've got a plan. And what's more, they will come in and help you do the economic evaluation. They will show you how to do the analysis, and they're just waiting. Everybody wants to come to Montana, whatever excuse you can give them. And one of the leaders up in Helena said, and why don't you ask me to come in the ski season? I would like to.
Well, those are good comments, and maybe those are a good lead-in to the video. And
Well, one more thing.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
On what Mary said about a plan, it should be known that there's a plan on the table, not only for what they would like to do, which is replace the building with a building that's 1/4 the size. That'll cost $1 million to build. It'll be about a $1.2 million project, counting the couple $100,000 it'll take just to tear this multi-million-dollar building down. Also, there is a plan on the table that's been developed that shows how we can have a positive cash flow, how we can fix it up, how we can do all these different things that we've talked about. And this plan's been on the table for over 2 years. That's what the reality is.
Well, let's thank you, Tim, and money is mentioned. The Catholic Campaign has come forth with a sizable grant to the North Side Community Development Corporation, a group that seeks to betterment of the North Side neighborhood and has quite a track record. I think their website is nmcdc.org. And it's an amazing website. But let's go to this video, because this is the group that can do seed money, that can come in and give us a start. So we're off and running with the video. And when we come back, I'd like to go to you, James. You've seen the video, and for some of the comments of what seed money can do in neighborhoods. Thank you.
To believe that we have to gather the equipment that we're going to need.
Let justice surge like water and goodness like an unfailing stream. Water. It has always been a powerful symbol in biblical teaching. Today, the imagery of water remains an appropriate way to chronicle the spirit of Catholic social teaching in the United States, lived out through the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. Recalling the words of the late Cardinal Joseph Bernardine.
The Campaign for Human Development began as a ripple and has become a current cascading through lives and communities, bringing new opportunity in its way.
The watered banks of the Rio Grande stand in sharp contrast to the arid hills through which the river flows. In rural areas of Texas and New Mexico, along the Mexican border, low-income communities called colonias dot the landscape. For years, people moved here seeking the great American dream of owning their own home and land. But the dream often came up dry. We really didn't realize how much we were going to suffer from the lack of water or services, but we felt that we needed to own our own house, and we thought slowly we might be able to resolve the challenges that faced us here. The people of the colonias found a way to do for themselves through participation in the El Paso Interreligious Sponsoring Organization, or IPISO. This grassroots organization, funded by the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, helps residents organize to take a proactive role in bringing a better quality of life to their communities.
There were many people who just outright told us, you will never get water in those areas, water or water treatment. But I think it's been both our persistence and our willingness to see the issue through that after 18 years of working in this issue, that over 50,000 people who didn't have water 15 years ago now have water and sewage treatment in their homes.
In the end, our persistence paid off. We got it. We won. Not just for us, but for all of the other colonias. At IPISO-sponsored workshops and meetings, residents learn how to prepare and present their messages to decision makers.
Our bank's already put $50,000 on the line, so the challenge to the city government is, we need your help and we want to have it. Thank you very much.
They also learn how to unite on issues. We have learned how to meet with people. We've learned how to negotiate with public officials in the county. They have listened to us and are working with us to solve our problems. El Paso residents are seeing results in their neighborhood schools as well. In IPISO's Alliance School project, greater parental involvement with teachers and school administrators has paid off in dramatically improved scores that came up 60 to 75% on standardized state tests, and in obtaining up-to-date computer technology for elementary school students.
Everybody wanted to use my computer because and mine and my sister's, because they didn't know what a computer was.
By challenging the local culture, we have brought the low-income community to the table, and the campaign essentially has made that happen.
Well, I think after viewing that first segment, I think it comes back to what Tim was saying, and Mary, that when you have a plan, when you have hope, when you have people with money, and when you have expertise, it's absolutely astounding what people can do when they get a plan and a hope and somewhere to go. It's absolutely amazing what can be accomplished. And that first segment shows you where they were taken from abject poverty with nothing, no facilities, no water, nothing as a community. And they built that up. They said, what do I want? How am I going to go get it? And now what do I do? And if you can give people the lead and tell them what to do, they'll come. They'll do it. Mm-hmm. And what we have here is a building which could be used for all sorts of purposes.
But you know, James, sometimes the needs are not that dire even. You know, we had a survey a couple of years ago in the parish, and we asked what people would like to see happen at the buildings. And some of the neighborhood people who were elderly said, you know what, we would like a safe place to exercise and to meet and to have some maybe motivation on how to do nutritional meals, you know, and things like that. But they were looking for community. And I think one of the things that it's surely happened in our family is that we have, our children are not in Montana. Well, one is in Bozeman, but the other three are out of state. And so we go to visit them, and we find that there isn't that much support system for them where they are either until they get connected, you know. And so a lot of times it's just making connections with some of the things that people need with some of the talents that somebody else has. And it doesn't have to be big money, but it has to. You have to have a place to gather.
Yeah, I think my work, I've been in this field that I'm in for about 10, 15 years. And what I've discovered about people is they are, by and large, they look very successful and very happy, but when you actually talk to them, they are lonely. They have little connection with other people. They don't know how to go about getting connection with other people. And with the society as it's going right now, it's so dangerous to go out there and try and meet people on your own. And if you could come to a central place like this complex, where it's safe, as your senior citizens were saying, where it's safe and you can go and meet people and start to converse and get connection with people. And the way we're building our complexes, although it's changing to some extent in the cutting edge, where they're building communities, not just housing developments. Seaside is one of them back in the East Coast, where it's a planned community, but it's planned for so that people can walk, they can communicate, they're all in sight of one another, they all look after one another's property. It's an amazing, when you look at all the perspectives, you can see everybody else. It's not to spy on them, but to see who's coming in. And people are lonely, people need connection, they want connection. And they feel disenfranchised, as that first segment in that movie said.
Well, and our location is so perfect because there is a walkable neighborhood right there. We don't have to get transported, or anything. We can just walk there. And that neighborhood, the other thing that they're doing so many good things on the north side, it's always good to hitch on to and plug into a good idea. And
yeah, I just saw Larry White this afternoon, and I just said, Larry, here we are. We're really following the leadership that you provided several years ago at the hospital when you started community outreaches. No one, of course, can. Some of these things have taken on a life of their own, but the community outreach has now developed into this wonderful Northside CDC, and then also the community outreaches of the university of the hospital to the university, the Montana Heart Institute, the Montana Neuroscience Institute, and the Montana Institute for Humanities and Medicine and Humanities. So those are outreaches that really came from the creative spirit that imbued St. Patrick's Hospital in the past, and so here we are asking for yet another institute, the Montana Institute for Child Development. And that would be after-school programs and preschool. There's already been people come forth and wanted to be in the basement. And as I speak, I'm looking at the poster of that that has the church, and in the middle the rectory, and then on the closest to us on the left is the Loyola building. And in the basement of the Loyola building is a complete daycare. And there's been an offer, a credible offer, to reoccupy that. It's been a daycare in the past, and to reoccupy it as a daycare. And so I think some of us are just in hopes of bringing life to that campus. And how does this all relate to? I'd like to go to Tate Jones here soon, because Tate is a historian, and but the question: how does the campus relate to Father Ravalli? Because Father Ravalli founded a mission not only at St. Mary, along with Father DeSmet. It was kind of a co-founding over a period of years, but also the mission at St. Michael, which was out at Hellgate. And then that mission was moved to our campus and became St. Francis Xavier Historic District. And yes, so we are connected with Father Ravalli. And then what did Father Ravalli do? Well, he was Montana's first physician. He did surgery even. I can only imagine it without biting on the bullet and a good shot of hooch, but Father Ravalli did, he was a physician, he was a pharmacist, he was an artist, he was an architect. He built these buildings at St. Mary and here. He taught agriculture, and that'll be and we'll get there in a bit, but Tate, from a military, especially a military history standpoint, we have had, in the past, we have had the garrison here at Fort Missoula, and that interaction with the Native American people. And can you tell us a few things about that era and just the?
Certainly. Well, the relationship between the Army and the church was an interesting one here in the 1860s and 1870s, up until the time of the removal of the Salish from the Bitterroot to the present Confederated Salish and Kootenai Reservation. The Army was here for security purposes, of course. There was a fear there might be some sort of uprising, but a good deal of Fort Missoula's establishment had to do rather in the fact with the desire of the local merchants for to build up the county's economic base, and that in the region as well. But the church's role, and the Army did work with them in a sort of relationship, was to provide social services to the Salish in the Bitterroot and try to act as something of a cultural mitigator over the changes in the area coming in the 1860s and 70s. And I know that Captain Ron at the fort, the first post-garrison commander, and Thomas Gibson, another one slightly later on, did work with the church to try to alleviate some of the changes that were coming to western Montana. And that's where the Jesuits came in and did have a relationship with the Army in that sense.
Well, yeah, and if I understand, I mean, for instance, there were government policies such that, say, this reservation here was a Jesuit a Jesuit and a Catholic reservation.
Yes.
But there might be another reservation someplace else that was a Methodist reservation.
Yes.
Interestingly, and then so therefore the Ursuline sisters came, and I guess when they were teaching the Indian people, in a sense, they were carrying out government policy, which was to give the Indian people the English language and, you might say, Western ways. I'll say for better or for worse. I do believe America is starting to learn more and more from our native people that all people not only have rights but have a lot to offer. And that said, this is maybe a chance to go to the next segment of the video, which takes us to some other. It takes us, I believe,
to the rural.
to Iowa.
To Iowa. Where they've done some very remarkable things. They have, when somebody wanted to retire from the farm, instead of having to sell out to the large corporations, they matched them up with somebody who would just love to be farmers. And so there was a transition time there. And I think that's what we're dealing with all of these cultural situations in different times. It's just to look around and see that everybody has a place at the table. This is one of the themes of the bishop's writings right now, and that's the way they've summarized it. They said, just be sure everyone has a place at the table. And I think that's a good way to remember, what our ultimate goals are.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Fran. With that said, let's lead into that video. And once again, I'm going to pick on James when we come back for some opinions about what seed money can do given the right opportunity, such as this example in Iowa. Thank you, everyone. We'll be right back.
The historic center of rural Iowa, the family farm, is at risk as small farms are bought out or go under. Alarmed by this threat to rural communities, farmers and local businesses came together to form an organization to help reverse the trend. The result was Ag Connect. With initial funding from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, Ag Connect helps strengthen rural areas by matching farmers who are just starting out with established farmers who wish to retire. Since 1995, Ag Connect has accomplished 26 matches.
Farmers are a conservative group. Initially, we were something new. They weren't real acceptable to us, but that we're getting over that now, or we're comfortable going into about every community in Iowa, talking about Ag Connect.
Jeff Powell and Don Narrigan were paired by Ag Connect. Jeff's goal in joining the program was to realize his dream.
It was to come up here to get established, to actually get where my wife and my family could get started on our own farm.
Gracie, Daddy's going bye-bye.
It takes commitment and much hard work on the part of the families involved.
It's a long process. It's kind of like courtship and marriage. It takes a lot of work on both sides.
We do think it's important for young farmers to come back, or young people to come back to the farm. And with the horrendous investment that it takes to get started in agriculture, it's just no way that they can do it on their own.
Ag Connect is economic development at the grassroots level, and the idea has spread throughout Iowa.
If there was a need for our organization when we got started, it's increased 100-fold in the last 2 years. So we're becoming more popular, more well-known, and it's largely because of the Catholic Church's campaign for human development that this whole thing got the seed planted in the first place.
Sowing the seeds of faith in action is not a casual act. It is a process nurtured within a strong community of faith. In Western Oregon, parishioners are discovering that they can make a difference by listening to those directly affected by poverty.
We get parishioners out in the communities, out in our parishes, who begin to meet with the folks from our funded projects and discover these stories and hear what these people are saying.
The campaign educates Catholics about the root causes of poverty and motivates them to make changes in their local communities.
We're called the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, and this is all about people developing their sense of identity, their sense of purpose, that they can make a difference.
One person whose life has been transformed is Leslie Weary. She discovered there is a big difference between just helping people and helping people help themselves.
A lot of people like me think that you get on your white horse and charge into the camp and you give everybody whatever they need and then you leave and that's what you're supposed to be doing. And through the campaign, I've really learned about being in solidarity with the poor and working with them, and the great people that I've gotten to know there have really opened my eyes about what justice is all about.
Since then, she has helped raise awareness of social justice issues at St. Pius X Parish in Beaverton, Oregon. Each year, Leslie's parish dedicates work days to helping the residents of Campo Azul, a neighboring migrant labor camp.
Our hope is that by coming out to a work project, that certainly it will make a more dignified home for the people who live here, but it is the encounter with the migrant workers, seeing the conditions, beginning to see how complex the issue is, that then will lead to advocacy work with migrant workers.
Jesus' compassion is at the very basis of this whole thing. If people are being oppressed and suffering, it's not good enough simply to give them a handout, and then they're going to still be suffering after they've used that up. We really need to change the system, to empower the people.
As the parishioners in Oregon have rediscovered, justice is about recognizing that many people feel isolated and disconnected, and that only hands-on connecting with one another can bring us back into relationships built on justice.
People have forgotten the connection between faith and social justice. What we're trying to do is help them remember the link, and do that by going back to the biblical vision of justice. Now, the biblical story of justice is a story of people who are called to right relationship with God, with one another as human beings, and with all of creation.
Well, that was an interesting segment, and it included not only the Iowa, but I believe some other issues.
Yeah, they went to the Western Oregon, into that community there that was basically a migrant settlement, and then how the community
the people
reacted.
in the town went out to work with the migrant farmers.
And what they've said, the main thing was that the people that went out and got involved came away more enriched than what they gave, and this is, I think, what they're trying to say is that you learn so much more by changing places, taking a different perspective, see what it looks like on the other side.
Well, yeah, that great saying of Mother Teresa was good for these one-liners, and she said, everyone talks about the poor, no one talks with them, but James, people that are displaced from their jobs and that are up against it. And did you see some possibilities here in these initiatives?
Well, I think from my professional perspective, yes. I think there's all sorts of innovative projects you can do. From what I've read of the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, it's a manifesto for human development. It's akin to the United Nations. It's akin to all the great manifestos that have been put out by thinkers. And I think the Catholic bishops have hit it right on the head when you have to develop people. If you want to have a society that's going to be sustainable, going to be livable, you have to develop the people, and you have to give them a say, input, and make them a priority and put them first. And I can see all sorts of things that we could do. And I can take that back to my people and think about it and see if we can get some input. But I don't think it's money. And I think if you want to preserve rural America, if you want to preserve the diversity, you've got to have people in that area. You can't just let them all sell out an ADM or somebody comes in and it's just miles and miles and miles and miles of farmland, and it's all mechanical, it's all done for profit. And there's no people there, there's no communities there. They don't need communities, they just need people with helicopters, and they come in with 25 combines and they truck them all in, and then they get the wheat, they plow it up, they seed it, and they leave it till next year, and then they move on.
It's like globalization at its worst.
It's incredible.
This is what the rebellion is, globalization at its worst.
And I think it's not only money, though, and I think there's been a great move previously in American history just to, as they say, throw money at something. Money is very, very important, but as Tim said, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have expertise, if you don't have any people out there who can guide you and tell you what to do and what the pitfalls are, money gets wasted. It's not focused, it's not put to the correct use. So what this program does is not only gives you the money, what it does is gives you the access to experts who will come in and say, well, what are you looking at? What would you like to accomplish? Well, that might not be possible, but would you look at this? And then we can give you an idea of how to do this. It's not just money, it's input and people's empowerment. In my job, what I do is I don't do everything for people. I tell them, this is what is required, this is where you want to go, this is what's required. Now here are the places and things that I'm requiring you to do. I'll help you get there, but I'm not going to hold your hand, I'm not going to do it for you, because that's no good. People need to be able to say, I did it, or we did it, not that it was done for us. And that woman that said in there that you can't just come, she learned in Oregon that you just can't come in and say to people, well, here's the money and this is what you do, and then leave. It's just not. I remember a wonderful story of about American agronomists who went into Africa and they had this wonderful new hybrid rice that they were going to make and give to these people. And they went before the village elders, and the village elders said, well, yeah, that's wonderful, and it's resistant to all these diseases, and it's going to give us more product and bigger yield. And then at the end of the presentation, the agronomist said, well, have you any questions? And there was this silence. And this old chief said, are you going to stay with us during this experiment? And the Americans said, well, we can't really, because we're only funded for so many months. And the old guy sort of rubbed his chin and said, well, I'll make you a proposition, I'll make you a deal. He said, if you stay with us and you plant the corn and the crop fails and you starve along with us, we'll plant it.
Okay.
These people are not dumb,
Well, but that consistency and that is important. And I noticed on the in the first segment, if you remembered when they were going after the water, that was an 18-year program. And so the Campaign for Catholic Development does have a track record that way, that it isn't just a short-term thing. So that takes it out of that, the government restriction of fiscal,
Well, it does. The next segment that we go to, and before we go there, I should warn whoever ahead of time will be on the carpet or whatever, but to talk about it. But the next segment goes to it's kind of a medical model, but it's in South Bronx, where you'd have thought things were tough and stuff, but they found the most wonderful people to operate a caregiving institution in the South Bronx. And
New York is funny. When we were up in Helena, I met a woman who is in Arlie now, and she said Arlie reminds her so much of New York. And I were saying, what? Wow. And she said, because New York is just little tiny neighborhoods, and people did know each other. And she said, I could never live in Missoula because I need to walk around and keep bumping into the people, every day. She wants to, walk it. But anyway, her concern was that a lot of the people from Arlie are down, say, in our North Side neighborhood, but they don't necessarily stay. There's a lot of turnover there, and so there's, why these things happen, I don't know. One of the stories they told, or we talked about up in Helena again, was the old story of the Good Samaritan. We all know the story of the Good Samaritan. Somebody's in the ditch, and the lawman, the commercial merchant, the priest, etc., go by him, and for some good reasons, they don't stop and help. Then the Good Samaritan, who is, of course, an ostracized individual in the greater community, is the one that has the compassion to help him. And they said, it's not about the people that didn't help. It's not about the Samaritan who did help. It's about, why is the guy in the ditch? What are the causes? What are the underlying things? Is it the values that our economy is built on, rather than, and somebody's always the principles, we have threats of liability, we have, this isn't economically feasible, and all that. So I think we need to get underneath that and look at those values. What values really are we following?
Yeah, the question why is a good one. The Bishop of Recife said one time, give people food, they call you an angel. Ask why they need food or why they're poor, they'll call you a communist. But that said, let's go to the next segment, which, by the way, does tie in with Father Ravalli, because having brought health care, being the first physician in Montana, here is a healthcare segment that you'll be seeing, and I'll leave it at that. And it does have job retraining elements, so I'm going to bounce it back to James Weir here as we go back, as we come back. So we'll be right back. Thank you very much.
A dream grows in the heart of the South Bronx. Here, a unique healthcare enterprise is helping hundreds of low-income women trade public assistance for high-quality jobs.
Cooperative Home Care, may I help you?
The enterprise is Cooperative Home Care Associates, an innovative home healthcare agency currently employing 500 people.
We saw that the home care industry was growing and it was creating lots of jobs, that it was likely to do so for a long time, but that it was also creating lousy jobs, that they were minimum wage, no benefits, no career ladders, and we felt that if we could start a company that was owned by the workers, they would treat themselves well.
With funding from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, that idea was realized in 1985 with the founding of Cooperative Home Care Associates.
The major way that Cooperative Home Care stays connected to our community, which is the South Bronx, is through our workforce. Everybody lives here.
Good afternoon, this is speaking.
With today's focus on moving people off welfare, Cooperative Home Care is a model for organizations dedicated to creating jobs.
Before I came to Cooperative Home Care, I was on public assistance, and that was the most humiliating experience I've ever had. That's not something I want to ever do again.
In addition to getting off welfare, participants at Cooperative Home Care like being able to buy into the company.
They have a program called Worker Owner Program, and you have the choice to join and you have to pay $50 to get into the program, and after you pay your $50, you actually begin to get dividends at the end of the year.
Cooperative Home Care recruits, selects, and trains participants in its program.
We have a 4-week training program, and most other home health aid agencies train for 2 weeks. So we're investing double the time in our participants.
Ramona Picardo worked in a factory and was on public assistance. I was tired of working in a factory and I wanted a change. I didn't want to be in the welfare system. I wanted to support myself. She found out about Cooperative Home Care Associates, completed the intensive 4-week training program, and today is a caregiver for Luis Colon, who is a paraplegic. In turning her own life around, Ramona no longer needs public assistance and also has improved the quality of her patient's life.
Ramona represents this company at its best, and we're very proud of her. I am personally very proud of her. I'm proud of her and many others like her.
The thing that I find most rewarding is when people hug me and kiss me and say thank you for everything that you've given me. And that's the most rewarding thing you can get. I love it. I love it.
The Catholic Campaign for Human Development is a practical application of Catholic social teaching. The campaign was launched by the U.S. Catholic bishops in 1970 and has been praised by Pope John Paul II as a witness to the Church's living presence among the most needy. Its main source of income is an annual collection in Catholic parishes. This financial support helps fund the success stories explored in this program and countless other stories, as in New Orleans, where people of faith have worked together to stop violence in their neighborhoods. Or in New York City, where Chinese workers are organizing to create better working conditions and to fight discrimination in the workplace. In all of its funded projects, the Catholic Campaign for Human Development helps people help themselves. It is a hand-up approach instead of a handout. And in that way, the ripple becomes a strong current, cascading through lives and communities, bringing empowerment, opportunity, and new hope. Let justice surge like water and goodness like an unfailing stream.
Well, here we are back again, and we are the Xavier Foundation. We are Save St. Francis Xavier. Please go to our website, xavierfoundation.net. We've got various people of import here. We've got Tim Bernard, the builder, Gloria Bernardini, whose children went through the schools, Mary Fran Moylan, children through the schools. And here's one of the children through the schools, Tate Jones, myself, James Weir. What did you think of that segment where they actually took a neighborhood effort and turned it into a job retraining?
Well, I don't really want to focus on the job retraining. I think it's wonderful. What I'd like to focus on is that this is in an urban environment. And here were people who were disenfranchised. This was a difficult place to work in. It was in the Bronx, in New York, which is going through a revitalization. But what I'd like to say is this is a perfect example of what can be done once you look at a situation. And once you take the skills that these people have, once you've got experts who can come in and help guide what these people want, and then guide them through the process of being a success. It's not just what they created, but any success. What do we want in this area? Who do we want to help? These people were disenfranchised, they were low income, they were on welfare. We were paying them, if you like, they were a burden on the public purse. And all they needed was a chance to be asked what they wanted to do and then contribute what they were good at and what they liked to the society. And then the Catholic Campaign for Human Development came in, gave them some money to start with, seed money, then came in with expertise. And they said, well, I want to do this, I want to train as a CNA or a personal caregiver or whatever. Then they set up the training. And then after that, they went out into the community and set up the job opportunities for them. And guess what? People were a success. It's all about giving them opportunity, not about money. It's about helping and giving them the tools to do the job, because people on welfare are not dumb,
Yeah, and look
They're
at them.
not stupid.
Yeah.
They're people who have come into circumstances in which they need help to get back on their feet again. And what I do in my job is I get people back into the community, back into the job market, if you like. And what I always tell people who say, well, why should we spend all that money? I'll say, look at the investment you're making. If I can train somebody at the university, get them into a good job, guess what? They're going to stay in it for 25 years. Then they're going to pay taxes. They're going to pay Medicaid. They're going to pay retirement. They're going to contribute to the society. Look at the return on your investment. If I could get that return on that invested from my retirement funds, I'd do that right now. Because it's a tremendous return,
Yeah.
It's much more than the 5 to 8% that you can make right now.
Well,
10% if you're if you've
And
not averse to risk.
from how things must have looked to Father of Valley, I just was reading a little chapter in here of some of the things that went on. The kind of there would be outbreaks of what would you say? Call it violence, if you will. I mean, people would die and things like that, and somewhat needlessly. It'd be misunderstandings. It'd be, oh, you were around my village, I thought you were going to steal a horse or something. And so it was community leaders, actually, that it must have torn Father of Valley's heart terribly, but he did minister to the needs of the ill. And here in this video that we just saw was a paraplegic or a quadriplegic being ministered by this Bronx Health Initiative. Tim, you've been kind of quiet over there, but we've got these.
And Gloria as well. She hasn't said.
Gloria,
she hasn't contributed tonight.
But I would like to say that whatever we do, we have to do with dignity, because, as James said, and it's only God's good grace that none of us have experienced what a lot of people have. I'm sorry, Tim's telling me I need to get closer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we have had some errors and a scandal in the church. And now's an opportunity for us to step up to the plate and start rolling up our sleeves and doing what Catholics have been known for when they started the schools and all the social work. And instead of deflecting it off to other entities and governmental bureaus, ultimately, in the end, it'll be cheaper for taxpayers. And the loneliness that is out there, there is also loneliness within the church. People can get involved that are in the church that maybe aren't right now. There's so many benefits, but we have an opportunity to help people, to restore dignity, and as James, you have said, people on welfare aren't stupid. And if you take away their dignity and their hope by not empowering them and allowing them to become the people that they are and bringing out the best in them, we've failed. Not only as Catholics, but as the whole community. So I'm enthused about this. I think we've got some wonderful ideas that Mary Fran and Tom have worked tirelessly, Tim and James, and I'm just very grateful to be along.
And many others, yeah. Many
I think
feel
it
this
was
way.
what Tom mentioned at the very beginning of this section. I mean, about what are we going to use this building for? Well, we start at the very bottom, with children, the next generation, the people who are going to come into the positions of working, taking control of the society, making societal decisions. And if we can influence them to have a social conscience or to be aware of other people's needs and to know that people need help along the way, I think that's going to be a real good incentive
and
to
keeping
reuse
it
the
in
building.
this community, because we can't just send things overseas. I mean, it's wonderful to help others, but we are kind of dysfunctional right now, and we need to heal within, and we need to take care of people around us before we can do great things elsewhere.
Yeah, and Tim, there's some gospel messages here, but could you fill us in a little bit there?
There really is, and we have to remember that when Father Valley came out here, there were no Christians at all, but here we are faced in a time where 75% of the people in Missoula don't attend any church at all. So we have this is still a mission parish. There is plenty of people out here that need, and people want to see people actually doing something. They're tired of the hypocrisy and the glossy brochures and the fancy talk. They want to see somebody actually do something. And you'll bring people in by your example, not by your words, because words they have the weight of the air that expels from your mouth if that's all that there is. If there's nothing to back it up.
Great.
And also the other thing from the sports world too is that everybody likes to support and be with a winning team.
That's
and
right.
if you're out there
There
doing
you go.
something, well, people will say, well, hey, that might be something I'd like to get involved in. What can I do?
Exactly.
And if you've got the
Exactly.
ability to say, well, here, you can push this wheelbarrow, or you
Thank
can
you,
paint this
yeah.
window, or you can do whatever.
Well,
you
we
know?
received the 1 minute, a little while ago, we did receive the 1 minute. I think maybe a closing statement is that some wag said that there are some of us who consider the New Testament to be too liberal a document, but that's anybody's guess. And we are the Xavier Foundation, Save St. Francis Xavier School, and we are very happy to be with you tonight, and thank you once again.
And one of the things we have to do, we have to get out of this room and do something.
Get out of this room and do something. Let's go, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.